and check if everything is good to go. Hope it works out. Hopefully with no connection errors. Looks pretty good to me. Okay. I think everything is good. Hey Roscoe, you want to come up here? Come on. You want to come up? Roscoe. Come on. What's this? You want to jump on my lap? Come on. Are you just going to sit there, or are you going to jump up? Come on. Yeah, this is really starting to piss me off. These bloody connection issues. If it lags again, I really do apologize. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's going to keep lagging. Good to see you, Guitar Storms and Luca. I'm here with Roscoe. Do you want me to power on through the stream? Because this is actually my third and final attempts to let this whole thing work. By the way, I've used my mobile to not see myself on the phone instead of looking at myself on the screen on my mobile. So I'm looking at myself on the YouTube tab. I just need to find the best way to not make my streams look reversed when I wanted to see myself on my phone. Guitar Storms, give Roscoe a big hug. He's a good boy. You're a good boy. Mama should be coming home later on. Whip out that Gary Moore guitar. Guitar Storms, I'm not going to do that today, unfortunately, because I've been busy writing and I want to chill today, if that's all right with you. Sorry about the look of this. It's the part of my phone's case. I need to get a new phone case. It does look distracting, I know, and I apologize. Luca, for me, it's an absolute privilege being here. It's good to see you, as always. Guitar Storms, you say, do what you can with the live stream, bro. Whatever you feel like is good for you, bro. Cheers for that. I do appreciate it. By the way, that's a little mask I've made back in the primary school days. I know it's very noticeable, and over here is a bit of a mess. Tell you what, if the lagging does continue, I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause what I will be talking about, and I will persevere if that is good for you guys, because I'm not going to let YouTube's connection affect the stream. It has been doing that from the previous streams. Thankfully, not every time I stream doing this. Jake, greetings chat and crew. Just celebrated my birthday 2 days ago. I think Devin Townsend has made a really good, perfect timing statement to take a break from touring. Hope your birthday went very well, by the way. I've seen Devin Townsend only once, and it was amazing. So would that work for you guys? If the stream lags, I'm going to pause mid-talking of what I wanted to say to you. when I will be showing you guys what I've bought, and during a hangout part of the stream later on. Luca, I dropped a comment under one of your videos. Yes, Luca, I am planning to do my response video to the list in the next few days, hopefully. But I'm going to review Korn's Take a Look in the Mirror first, because I've said that from my last video. Nose is itching today. Sorry, not picking my nose. So, now that's out of the way, thankfully I have bought more than a few records to show off for this update, as well as a few CDs of albums that have been on my wish list. Guitar Storm's Hardgraft is going pretty consistently, with some more potential plans for occasional gigs, and we have decided to learn some new songs for growing the repertoire, more different songs through separate eras. But I'm looking forward to it. It has been productive as I've been looking into the experience of learning these songs, and just to keep myself really productive, you know. I don't know when I'm going to be gigging with the band, but hopefully later in the year. Brilliant that you're still pressing forward with the band. Yeah. I felt inspired to work harder again, and I'm still deciding to continue my productivity for the metal original music. It's just the hard part of finding musicians online or maybe in person. If the video quality looks pretty crap, I apologize. And as well as with my mental health, I did go through some days where I felt not energetic and uninspired, but I did decide to perk myself up to go for my 1 hour walk. I did that earlier today. I've listened to Devin Townsend's Ocean Machine album, just to get myself lost into the world of his music, as well as to be outside, away from social media, and that has been a big help as well. By the way, thank you guys for the great supportive comments, and to the viewers who have watched my mental health self-improvement video, because what I've said just now has been addressed in longer detail on how I've been feeling from last week, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to enjoy what I have to say. Let's go to the CDs for this update. Brilliant that you're still pressing forward with the band. Yes, I read that. Going outdoors always clears the mind and uplifts you. Yes, I always agree with that. So the first band, I have decided to purchase a couple of albums. This band are a neo-progressive rock band from the UK, and the band is called Arena. Just checking if it's not glaring so much. Yeah. This is an album called Immortal. I've not listened to any of this band's music yet, but I really wanted to get into different kinds of bands through genres I've always been a fan of. And Arena is one of those bands that sounded interesting and intriguing for me to get into more of the subgenre direction of progressive rock. And the next Arena album I've got is Contagion. The album covers really intrigued me to check out the band, and I really like the separate look of the band name. I can't really comment about this very much because I have yet to listen to Arena, but I would let you guys know about this band in a future live stream. Have to pop out of chat, guys, on night shift tonight. Wish you all great people, all the luck in the world. Keep rising up, my friends. Much love to you, Guitar Storms. Thank you very much, as always, for participating. To be here at a short time or the long time. Stay awesome, and I truly am blessed to call you a friend, as well as with you guys. The next band is on a different genre. If you guys have heard about this, let me know in the comments. This is a band called The Blue Nile, and the album is called Hats. This was released in 1989 on the Virgin label. Actually, I'll show you guys the CDs closer. Yeah, the glaring. Sorry, it's still pretty light outside. Another one of those albums in a different style of music that got me interested to discover this album and band. So I'm really new to this band. The second to last one is from a band who created music in the experimental rock, very out there and energetic, frantic in places, intriguing sounds of music, pretty trippy as well, but it goes in many different places. This is a band called Boredoms, and this is one of their acclaimed albums, Super AR or Super R. The packaging is very minimalistic looking, and the booklet as well as the CD has got a lot of random drawings, like if a kid would, you know, doodle on just anything. See, yeah, different colors and presentation that's like quite not on the usual side. But I've actually listened to this, and it is really great stuff. I would like to check out some more bands in different countries, not just through the experimental side, but also with the journey of knowing any band that sounds intriguing. So yeah, this is possibly the most unusual artwork and colourful presentation by any band. Boredoms from Japan. And the last one is on a piece of music that's mostly like with some sounds of shoegaze, bits of trip hop and post-rock. A sadly defunct band. They've only released a few albums. Their final album is very trip hop inspired, and this is a band at the time called Bowery Electric, called Beats. Yes, in this very different packaging choice. Not much presentation there, but it's just a lot of the same background, color of choices. And I had fallen in love with this album. Roscoe, what's the matter? What? What? Do you want to come up? Do you want to be let out? Sorry, buddy. Some of the folks are watching the Bob Marley One Love film in the cinema room. I'll have to open the door. Sorry, Roscoe. Anyway, back to this. I had fallen in love with this album from the first few times I've listened to this. It's got some ambient soundscapes as well as this comforting and yet brilliant style of production. This was made in the mid-90s, so if you like the combinations of different genres with different different behaviors of music, then I do recommend this album. Bowery Electric with the acclaimed album Beat. Now that the CDs are sorted, let's go over to my favourite format of music, the records. By the way, is everything still good for you guys? No lagging at the moment, which looks great. And I'm going to turn on a bedroom light. Should have done that. There you go. Draw the curtains. I do apologise by the random moments of unprofessionalism. I should have been prepared, but nevertheless, thank you guys for turning up anyways. Let's go over to the records. Once again, just like with the variety of the bands I've shown earlier, I've been to an amazing record shop called Polar Bear Records in Kings Heath, and I've not been to Polar Bear Records since pretty much over 5 years, before the COVID-19 pandemic happened. So it was like a highly worth it return back to the record shop and just purchase records in person. The first one is an album I've really got to admire a lot. I've been listening to Brian Eno's music again, not just with Ambient One music for airports, but with the collaboration stuff, like with My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, with David Byrne, and I've listened to music for films. Luca, well, I wouldn't use the word behavior for that record. I'd rather use the word mixture. That's another really good word. Cheers for adding that word in, Luca. By the way, I hope I pronounced that name right. Luca Canetti. If that is a mispronunciation of your surname, I apologise. Anyway, speaking of Brian Eno, this is a debut album from a Canadian tribal, in places experimental ambient musician called Michael Brook. This is his debut album called Hybrid, with Eno, as I've mentioned, and also Daniel Lanois. This is an original pressing from 1985 on the Editions EG label. It's in really great condition. Simply one of those gentle and quite ominous, shimmering pieces of experimentalism that I have been loving a lot. I've seen that Michael Brook's second album is like the masterpiece, and I need that on vinyl. That's another one that's been on my wish list, along with this at the time. Yes, that is the right pronunciation anyways. Thank you for letting me know, Luca. This is, to me, near perfection. Love this album. Next band, since I've also been listening to the jazz fusion world of music with the likes of Weather Report and a lot of Miles Davis, the Mahavishnu Orchestra. This is a later album called Apocalypse. I haven't played this one yet. John McLaughlin is one of my all-time favourite guitarists, and it says, with the London Symphony Orchestra, Michael Tilson Thomas as the conductor. I like the look of the artwork. I've been a big fan of Mahavishnu Orchestra for more than a few years, ever since I fell in love with the first two albums, Birds of Fire being the second album, and the best album, the Inner Mounting Flame. Those two I highly recommend. And I'm a big fan of Visions of the Emerald Beyond, which I have that on vinyl also. Next one up, Mike Oldfield Omadon. Not an original pressing, it's a later release. And I did look into the backstory of this album when it was in the making, and it was really unfortunate because Mike Oldfield's mom passed away whilst her son was making this album. This is nothing like with Tubular Bells, for those who know about this. This is like this variety of music, Celtic, New Age kind of music. But I really liked the sound of this. When I first listened to the album, it did meander in places. Like, it does feel like, I guess, quite jarring, but it's not that it's a major flaw, because I really like a lot of what's been played on this album. Brilliant one. I need to get Tubular Bells on vinyl and to discover more of Mike Oldfield's albums. Roscoe, that cough of yours. No, don't jump on me. Don't jump on me. I'm showing records. Careful, buddy. Sit. No, sit. Sit. Good boy. Now, this record, I could not believe I have spotted this in front of my eyes. I've wanted this on vinyl for a very long time. I looked it up on Discogs. There was no unofficial pressing of this. So this is a 2023, much later reissue of Alcest's masterpiece, Moonscales. I love this album very much. The album cover is simply one of the best. Beautiful presentation. I need to buy some more Alcest on CD as well, but this was the first Alcest album I bought on vinyl. I'll show you the pressing because it is simply beautiful. It's got the sleeve with the lyrics and the detail of the two-piece band. Oh, it also comes with this poster. It's just a poster of the artwork. The record, color-wise, looks gorgeous. Here you go. That's what it looks like. I did give the record a big wipe over using the record cleaning spray. I have to buy a better bit of equipment to clean the records because I've used the lot of them to hopefully make my records sound as good as possible without dealing with the surface noise and the occasional sounds of hearing crackles and pops. But this album to me is one of my most favourite albums of the last decade. Black gaze with the sound of black metal, bits of shoegaze, I guess. I know that they went shoegaze on their um, later album Shelter, which was their fourth album, which I was really disappointed with that when it came out. But since I grew to love shoegaze and dream pop, I want to get into that album better. So I was so pleased to have this on vinyl, and it wasn't crazy expensive. I wanted to originally purchase one of the coloured pressings of this on Discogs a few years back, but now I have it in an as beautiful presentation of the record. The condition is also very strong on here as well. It's one of those album covers when you can just stare into the detail for so long. Maybe I could just listen to this album and look at the album cover all the way through. So that's that. Alcest with Moon Scales. Brian Eno has returned once again because I have also purchased an original pressing of Ambient One Music for Airports. I checked it out on Discogs, and yeah, it is an original. Cleaned the record up and it played beautifully. I didn't expect to see this inside the record shop. I do have a different pressing, the half-speed remaster from Abbey Road, which was great to have, and the presentation to the packaging was fantastic. But I wanted an original for a very long time. Brian Eno's discography has been massive, and this is always my favourite Eno album. One of my top 25 favourites of all time, and I did a review of this on my segment Classic Albums Revisited. Luca, Tubular Bells has also been put together with another track, and the end result is Tubular Affair. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Jake, Alcest is a fantastic band. Their blend of post-black metal and black/shoegaze style of music is, ethereal, dreamlike, otherworldly, and magnificently well crafted, which makes them an influential band. Very descriptive words you've put there, and I love that enthusiasm from music fans who share a lot of that excitement, just like myself. And I get the feeling when you get the buzz about collecting records and you would geek out over, a pressing or sound quality, and to, really go into this this admiration for music that is always strong. The next album and band is called Flower Traveling Band Satori. This is an unofficial pressing. It says Life Goes On Records, but it is an unknown pressing. And I bet that the original pressing of this from Japan goes for crazy money. I've not listened to this one yet, but since that I was really into the psychedelic and frenetic and just multiple changes of music, I wanted to get this album for ages. It comes with this poster, which looks very nice with the colour choices. And I've just realised that some woman's drawn breasts have been exposed, but it's not that very detailed. So I hope YouTube won't do anything to this stream. Just a standard black coloured vinyl. I will be looking forward to check this one out. Satori by Flower Traveling Band. One of those other bands that sounded, really interesting. And having a bit of a struggle to fit this back inside the record sleeve. There you go. Satori by the Flower Traveling Band. Three more records and I'm done. Now this has a front cover with, again, breast exposure, but this is my first new album purchase and I'm really glad to have this. The new Imperial Triumphant album called Gold Star, released through Century Media Records. I mean, look at the back of this as well. I've seen really praised reviews about this album and it got me excited. The only annoying part is that the sticker at the bottom has been placed on the record's packaging. Imperial Triumphant can impair your mental health and cause cardiovascular disease or epileptic seizure. Use new Gold Star responsibly at your own risk. Drives me insane sometimes with stickers on the actual printing of, covering a big bunch of artwork or a few colors. Let's look at the gatefold, and there's the trio. I would like to see this band live. Comes with the sleeve and the lyrics shown at the back. I never knew this, but Dave Lombardo played drums on Pleasure Dome, and one of the members of Meshuggah, narration on Pleasure Dome, and Lexington Delirium. Some awesome track titles there. Standard black coloured vinyl. I bet this one will be probably better than the first Imperial Triumphant album that I've heard, which was Spirit of Ecstasy, that was released a few years ago. Jake, I'll get to your comments in a few seconds. I've just realised I did put the tiny little sticker on the corner on the front of the vinyl, because it was taped. It was taped around there because of the artwork that's fully shown and presented in a different way. You can't really see the sticker very well, but if you have a vinyl pressing of it, you'll see it properly. Imperial Triumphant, Gold Star. Excited to crank this album with a good amount of volume. The second to last record is another one in the jazz fusion world, the Jeff Lorber Fusion Soft Space. This is an original pressing on the Inner City label. It also features one of my favourite jazz musicians, Chick Corea, and also Joe Farrell. Chick Corea did one track on here, and I was really unfamiliar with Jeff Lorber, but this was fantastic. Awesome, very energized, and fun to get into. The hook and the musicianship on this album is amazing. So Inner City is a really, really not as popular record label. Yeah, I've seen some writing there. Doesn't bother me though. Inner City have been a record label I was unfamiliar with. If you love the sounds of music that can be, like I said, energized and highly fun with great jams, then check out Soft Space. This is near perfection as well. It just goes to show the versatility and the other as brilliant talents of musicians that are not as well known, who have made different styles of music that can really intrigue anybody, instead of just listening to the obvious greats. Soft Space by the Jeff Lorber Fusion, made in the 70s. And the last one, I bought another record from Atlas Records on eBay, and it's a Steve Reich album. Now, Steve Reich made a classic album of minimalism called Music for 18 Musicians. That's one of my favorite albums of all time. This is a different album called The Desert Music, and it's in pristine condition. Their packaging and service is top notch. If you are in the UK, then have a look at Atlas Records. Atlas Records is a record selling user on eBay, and I would advise you that if you love record collecting and to see brilliant packaging, then check them out. They have their own logo right there. I've bought a few records from these guys previously, like with one of Gong's later albums. I'll show you the record as its different sleeve. They also decide to include the Atlas Records record sleeve, or you can just put the record inside the usual sleeve. This was released through a different label, Non-Such Digital. Steve Reich's music is, like I said, with a very consistent amount of minimalism of music. I don't listen to that type of music a lot, but when I do, I find it to be fascinating. Instead of a lot of these pieces of music that was recorded with the electric instruments, you can just hear the sounds of voices to percussion and brass instruments to woodwinds of like flutes, and it's always an interesting experience. Steve Reich's The Desert Music. The album just has different pieces of the whole composition split into making it as a full album. The Desert Music beginning, which is really the first half, and the Desert Music conclusion, different movements, as these tracks have been called. Brilliant album, not as strong as Music for 18 Musicians, and besides, that album, original pressing wise, can go for insane money, and that was released through ECM. ECM has mostly been a jazz releasing record label for different musicians, but ECM are another one of my favorite labels. ECM albums can be pretty collectible and difficult to get original pressings with, but I have just so many albums on my wish list of many kinds of music I want to collect. On my RachelMusic.com account, I have, excuse me, at the moment close to 560 albums on my wish list. Steve Reich is a musician that sounds pretty intriguing to you if you love, softer, rhythmic but different styles of rhythmic sounds of separate tones. The desert music is very, very good. So that's it, guys. That's the update part on the stream. I know I've waffled on here, there, and everywhere, to quote the Beatles, of what I was displaying. I was just checking at the same time the YouTube had not been lagging the stream, because it did lag quite a lot from the previous few attempts to make the stream work out. Jake, Alphaville by them is my personal favourite. Imperial Triumphant. It's got elements of technical and progressive undertones, as if they studied Gorgut's catalogue, made it more methodical and psychedelic at times. It rocks. Yeah, Imperial Triumphant are one of those bands who impressed me so highly when I discovered Spirit of Ecstasy. So I hope Gold Star is worth of the hype, because it has been highly rated as one of the best albums of this year so far. Psycho, hey there, I did discover you from your review of the Kid Rock album, which was a horrific one at that. Sorry it took me more than a few minutes to respond to your comment there, Psycho. But yeah, Kid Rock, bad reputation, it deserved to be slated, and simply one of the worst albums of this decade so far. Like I said in my end of the year list of the worst albums of the year it came out, that Bad Reputation lives up to its title. Same goes with Results May Vary by Limp Bizkit, because Results May Vary is a very appropriate title. Not just because of the difficult times Fred Durst and company went through, the album without Wes Borland, which was understandably hard, but that album is just atrocious. I have some more different album lists coming up. I am going to do Take a Look in the Mirror by Korn, and then respond to your comments on the greatest albums of all time. I have made a randomized list that is almost good to go. There were some amazing picks. There were some that were more leaning towards the favoritism part, but that's totally fine by me. I have different comments to say on the albums I've selected. I've also decided, while there were just perfect picks, I've also added in the not as obvious albums to be in the list, because they deserve a mention. Another one of a list I'm going to be making a video on is 10 great albums with bad album covers. Now that's possibly going to be a divisive reaction for different people, because there are some album covers that many of us have always disliked, but when it comes to other ones, they would not be expected to be included. I'm a big fanatic of greatly detailed album covers, but obviously there are some duds. Some of them are just downright hilarious and a few can be just questionable, head-scratching album covers. You do want to listen to more of Rammstein's discography soon. Yeah, Rammstein's discography is one of my most favorites in metal. They are closely one of my top 10 favorite bands of all time. I've been a big fan of that band for ages. So they have been a very special band in my heart, as well as other ones. Some bands who I have later grown to love are included for another potential list of the top 25 favourite bands of all time. I've mentioned that list previously, but I've been very busy, as well as to think about self-care and my improvement through my mental health. But I am looking forward to be doing that list. Jake, how do you feel about Steven Wilson as a musician and Porcupine Tree altogether? I've been listening to them quite a ton, and their embodiment of work for progressive rock is stellar. I actually did review Porcupine Tree's latest album when it came out. Closure Continuation, I think that's what it's called. I thought it was a good album, but I thought it was a bit overhyped at the time. Porcupine Tree, I have a few albums, like Fear of a Blank Planet, and I think it's called In Absentia. I might have to listen to that band again, because I've not listened to them enough for me to really share my own opinions about the band in bigger opinions. I have a lot of respect for Steven Wilson. Besides him being intensely consistent with his ideas of remixing, remastering previous bands' discographies, like with Yes, Jethro Tull, amongst many other ones. Psycho, have you ever pre-ordered albums in the past? I pre-ordered Tsunami Sea from Spirit Box, as I have been a fan of their discography. Another good one, although some issues. I have pre-ordered albums previously, like Mastodon's Hushed and Grim, because I'm a big fan of Mastodon. Spirit Box, I would have to say, as much as I really respect the band, like, a lot, I just never understood a lot of the praise. I have actually talked about Spirit Box previously from a video I did on top 10 bands I just can't get into. It's not that I dislike Spirit Box. I respect the musicianship and their way of making music, and the performances are very good from what I've seen on various live clips. But Spirit Box have been a band that I have no issues with at all, other than they're just overhyped, in my opinion. Tsunami Sea, I can't really comment on that album because obviously I'm not really a fan of Spirit Box. Jake, I'm the same way with Sleep Token. Incredibly talented musicians, but the style and fan community have pretty much ruined the ebb and flow due to their massive popularity they've been getting. I've mentioned Sleep Token previously on that aforementioned list I've said. And Sleep Token are one of those bands that try way too hard to impress me. Again, with the musicianship and with the look of the live shows, they look electrifying and just explosive of a band. Not just with the music that loads of the fans just praise and admire, and I'm happy for them for being in that way. But Sleep Token have made some pieces of sounds through their originality that sounded decent, but then it just goes all over the place with me. It's not um, it's not the way I would listen to a multiple genre mixing band in the way Sleep Token does. Um, Bands who would decide to explore and make the combination of a few genres with um, soundscapes to intensity to rhythm and experimentation. Like, I'm a fan of Mr. Bungle. I love a lot of their albums, especially with Disco Volante being their most challenging album. And besides that, the debut album has been my personal favourite. Mr. Bungle's music is better for me to get into, whereas Sleep Token aren't. Psycho again. Sleep Token has a rather toxic fan base. I find it quite unfortunate with different bands' fan bases when their reactions towards other people's comments and reactions, it just does not feel as open-minded. I have some friends of mine who are Sleep Token fans, and I will see their logo, and I think, good on you for being a fan, but I kept trying to get into that band's music, and they just do not do anything for me. And fan bases on other bands too, like with Iron Maiden and Dream Theater, even Tool. Tool's fan base can be quite notorious. So that's all I would personally like to say around that part of the conversation and topic. Speaking of new albums, like with Imperial Triumphant, I have listened to Deaf Heaven's Lonely People with Power, and that was incredible. It's not only intense, but it's chaotic, brutal, but cleverly balanced with melody and atmosphere and the extreme existential, dark, heartfelt, expressing lyrics. It's, incredible. Now I really understood why people love that album. It's quite surprising that Deaf Heaven's fan base would now rank this album, Lonely People with Power, as the best thing they've ever done, even surpassing Sunbather, which Sunbather is another outstanding album. I'm a fan of the New Bermuda album, which I have somewhere. Just trying to find it in the collection. Yeah, here it is. I also have Ordinary Corrupt Human Love and Infinite Granite on CD. I got Infinite Granite on vinyl. New Bermuda was also another very strong album. I loved most of this album as soon as it came out, and I bought this pretty quickly. But Sunbather is still, to me, their magnum opus. I was going to get Lonely People with Power on vinyl, but when I went into Polar Bear Records to find and purchase records like the ones I've shown earlier, the record was £40, and the Imperial Triumphant one was I think it was, I think it was 25 or 35. So I would like to have Lonely People with Power on vinyl at a better price. Another new album I've listened to yesterday, actually, the new Machine Head album. If I would have wanted to continue reviewing new albums, I would have immediately praised Lonely People with Power, and as well as with the new Imperial Triumphant album. But with Machine Head, I will have to be quite brutally honest to say what I'm going to say about this album. Machine Head released a new album called Unatoned. It's the first Machine Head album with, once again, a different lineup change, which I really appreciate and totally respect, as obviously Rob Flynn has been Machine Head for a very long time, and I totally appreciate the lineup around this album's era, like the previous one from the era of Kingdom and Crown. I've listened to Unatoned, and I gotta tell you, I have never been so disappointed on a new album from a favourable band of mine for many years, since Korn's Requiem. Yeah, I did buy Requiem by Korn. Oh, it's down there. I've been rearranging my CDs alphabetically. But yeah, Machine Head's Unatoned. That is the weakest Machine Head album in ages. Controversially, I know that Catharsis was an extremely divided and pretty much as hated album, but I would personally play Catharsis over the new album. Catharsis does have very major flaws. I did buy it on CD and it was shown previously, but I grew to like the album. Yes, there are some terrible lyrics and bad songs on that album, but I grew to respect it more, and I liked more than half of the album. With Unatoned, the flaws were immediately noticeable. The worst part about Unatoned was Rob Flynn's vocals. They have been, to me, the most lackluster sounding performed vocals from him in this new era of Machine Head. And we get it, that age does get to people. And Rob Flynn is in his 50s, but his material on this album, musically as well as the lyrics, could have been back to the drawing and writing board, because some of the lyrics are very indifferent. There are two songs that I regard as some of the worst Machine Head songs, and I'm going to look them up right now on the Wikipedia page. Unatoned. The tracks that I don't like on the album are Outsider and Not Long for This World. The songs that I like on the album are Atomic Revelations, Bone Scraper. That's quite a mixed bag of a song for many, but I really do like the song, especially the chorus. These Scars Won't Define Us, and Dustmaker, which is like an interlude piece that is different. And I liked the change of pace to hear something like in a separate soundscape. But the other ones on here, like Unbound was painfully average to me, and I cannot get into some of the later tracks like Addicted to Pain. Scorn, in my opinion, is not a very good closing track. It's very unfortunate, as Reese Scruggs, his guitar work, especially his soloing, was excellent. And Matt Alston's drumming, through his technique and writing of his beats, were explosive and precise. Jared, for the backing vocals and bass duty, after Adam Duce left Machine Head, I think he's a brilliant musician. The songwriting had moments, but the execution of the songs, they have unfortunately suffered quite a lot. So I was originally going to buy this album because of me being a fan of Machine Head. As I've just looked this up, Kerrang gave it a 3 out of 5. Angry Metal Guy gave the album a 2 out of 5. And I agree with their comments. Some above average ratings. Metal on Tap gave it a 9 out of 10, which to me is way too generous. I know it's opinion's sakes, but for me, as an album reviewer and listener and fan of bands, with albums that have deeply unimpressed me and felt, highly underwhelmed, this is just not an album that I would not buy, and that I wouldn't want to listen to it ever again. It's not all bad, but I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 on Rachel Music. The vocals have suffered the most. His clean vocals sounded good, but he tried with his distorting tone, and it lacked the power. Most of Machine Head's albums have been favourable for me, like the near perfect album of Burn My Eyes, and I'm a fan of The More Things Change. I'm a defender of The Burning Red as well, which is the most underrated Machine Head album. And I love The Blackening and Unto the Locust. Those two albums are their masterpieces. Supercharger, almost forgot about that. That is my least favourite Machine Head album, but Unatoned is pretty much my second to least favourite album in their discography. Machine Head's discography has been, passionate, favourable, as I said, and, beloved for me, as Machine Head have been one of those very first metal bands I got into subgenre styles of metal music, alongside with Fear Factory and System of a Down and Slipknot and Gojira. But in this direction of Machine Head, I have no issue with Rob and company going forward. But Unatoned, to me, has been a brutal, disconnected, and, severe, poorly made, mediocre mishmash of an album. Jake, The Blackening to me is still their best, and one of my favorite albums of 2007. Perfect blend of groove, um, perfect blend of groove and heavy metal done right. But the later era is or either liked or downright despised. The later era. Yeah, I think Onto the Locust is the last strong Machine Head album. Bloodstone and Diamonds is still, to me, brilliant. Besides, I did overhype it a lot when it came out. Like, I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. And that was when I didn't listen to new albums more than once or a few times to really share my opinions on an album. But if it's just with albums that are mediocre or just straight up crap and garbage, they're just listened to only twice or once. But with amazing albums, I would always take more of the time to listen to why these albums are great and get my reviews prepared. Yeah, so Machine Head have made an album that I will not buy. And I wouldn't buy Supercharger either, because that is another really average album. Although I love the Hell Alive album, Machine fucking Head Live, a live album from the 2010s, is also very, very good. Right, the time now is 20 past 9. If there weren't any lagging connection issues, the stream would have been like an hour and 20 minutes. So I appreciate you guys being here and to be patient at the time when I tried to get everything good to go. So my apologies from the first problematic starts of attempts to do this stream justice. But for the most part, for this stream, on the third attempt, it does look really positive, with even more of a better look and minus the lagging issues. So there you have it. I will be back for another live stream around late June time. Okay, so the first day of June is on a Sunday, and the last day of the same month is a Monday. First of Sunday, 1st of June, and the last day of the month is a Monday, the 30th. I'm planning to do the live stream either on that day of 30th of June or on the weekend. I'll have to think about it. So I think now it's time for you guys to ask me anything to wrap things up. I would like to also still get into some bands I've not heard of. Hence, like with the gigantic wish list of albums on Radio Music, you know, more than a few hundreds of albums I wanted to collect. Albums I've heard of before and really want, but others I haven't listened to. Speaking of albums, would you guys like me to do separate videos on my CD collection. Even though I have bought some more CDs, I would still like to decide to show my new updated view of my CD collection. Because obviously all of this is not the whole collection. There's CDs down there you can't really see. There's a few more shelves over there and over there, to the point that I had to use boxes for my CDs to be displayed. I'm more than halfway through the organizing of my collection from A to Z, and I'm thinking I'm on the S category. Yes, I am. But I'm also going to be potentially putting my separate collections, like my Slipknot and Korn collections, on separate boxes or shelves. I have to reorganize my vinyl collection because these random piles have been coming up. Nathaniel Deaton, hey Greg, happy to hear from you. Just had a couple of questions. First, are there any albums that you're looking forward to that is releasing this year? Well, besides I have talked about Deaf Heaven's new album, my anticipation for Imperial Triumphant's album, now that I have it on vinyl, the heavy disappointment of Machine Head's Unatoned. I am going to look up what other albums are coming out this year. Bear with me, I know it's an abrupt change of lighting because I'm going through different website tabs. Some live albums. I need to get the new Sparks album, Mad. New Stereolab album, which was really surprising because, you know, I never thought I never thought Stereolab, would release another brand new album after 15 years. Right, 2025 new albums. I'd have to check out the new FKA Twigs album. But with new ones coming up, let's skip April. Let's go to May. There's a lot on Wikipedia I've not heard of. There's a new Model Actress release, and I've reviewed Dog's Body, which was, you know, insane, chaotic, and so descriptive of a band. Post-punk with noise rock, and Dog's Body was one of my favorite albums of 2023. The Shit of God by Behemoth. I don't know about Behemoth's upcoming new album because the latest album at the time, a few years back, was, to me, not very strong. Opus Contra Naturam, yeah. Yeah, I don't care about that album as much. But besides that, Behemoth are still one of my favourite extreme sounding metal bands. Let's see. Sparks I've mentioned, Stereolab I've mentioned. Um, New Garbage album. Okay. Yeah, I really like Garbage. I got into them a few years ago. Got their first two albums on CD. The new Swans album, Birthing, which is coming out uh, a month from tomorrow. It's oh shit! It's an hour and 55 minutes. Two tracks that are over 20 minutes long. Yeah, I do really love quite a lot of Swans. Cryptopsy, absolutely. Um, Van Morrison, I'm not going to bother with that album coming up, Dayton, because I've talked about Van Morrison previously from his two really bad albums, latest record project Volume 1 and What's It Gonna Take. I know he did move on from those two bad albums with uh, covers albums, and I think he's releasing a new one that's his first in a long time of new material. Damage Incorporated Network. Um, what's up? I'm doing good. Well, very well, my dude. Um, I am all for you redoing your collection videos. Okay, yeah, I will do that then. I would like to do a new overview of my CD collection, even that my collection alphabetically is not all sorted out, but I've sorted out more than half of my CDs. Let's go back to the list. Yeah, Cryptopsy's new album has been mentioned. New Ailstorm album, the Thunderfist Chronicles. I don't know. I will mention Ailstorm on my first part of my CD collection video. But to tell you the truth, I've not listened back to Ailstorm since the release of Curse of the Crystal Coconut. That was 5 years ago. New Joe Bonamassa album. Hailstorm, yes. They've got a new album coming out. Everest on the Atlantic record label. Atlantic being one of my favourites. I'm just really hoping that Deftones would make the perfect time to release the new album at some point. But we haven't got a new update on Deftones' work on the new album yet. Catatonia, yes. Speaking of Catatonia, I am going to check them out for the first time. I have heard bits and pieces of their music, and they sounded quite cool. And I would like to hear bands around that style of music. Just like when I checked out Paradise Lost and been falling in love with their music. Even the later ones that can be like quite unexpected, like when they went from being a metal band into a different sounding band, but they've mostly been a metal sounding band through their gothic themes and stuff. New Sodom and Heaven Shall Burn 2. Igor, got you excited. Okay, Jake. Yeah, I quite like Igor. Not that I will buy their stuff or anything. It's a band I've heard of before because of Mike Leon Shreds on Twitch. He used to play a lot of Igor's music, and I quite like the sound of the music. Yeah, so I think that is pretty much it for the upcoming new album parts. Anything else you want to ask me about, guys, in music? What other list videos I have coming up besides I've mentioned a few? Um, oh yeah, Wormrot, Jake. Wormrot are one of my favourite bands, and their Hiss album was amazing. There's going to be a new potential list for the 10 worst final albums, um, top 10 albums of 1975, top 10 important albums, the potential list of the top 20 greatest albums of all time, a new list of the 10 worst albums of all time. My list has changed since I did my last one, more than a few years back, with some of the albums that have been included previously. They're still on the list, but I've added some new added choices. Yeah, so I think it's always great for me to express more of this variety of music discussions for lists, as I've been listening to the comments and watching videos on a YouTube channel called Classic Album Review. I like his approach to his own descriptions, as well as to cleverly use popular quotes, like from popular people, and quotes that have been like very truthful, to talk about things when it comes to adding famous quotes and use them during a music discussion. What about greatest conceptual themed albums of all time? That is possibly quite difficult for me to make a list around that, Jake. Greatest conceptual themed albums. I think that's the kind of list that sounds, very obvious, to pick mainly the most obvious albums for that kind of list. And I personally would prefer to do these lists I've mentioned that sounded inspiring more, in my opinion. But I appreciate the recommendation of choice. After my list on the great albums with bad album covers one, I think I would like to do the sorry guys, I'm scrolling through what I've got planned on my notepad on laptop. Yeah, I probably would do the 10 important albums of all time, because I find that one to be quite intriguing for anybody who would like to get into that conversation. There are some cliche picks, but there will be some that you would not expect to see. Of course, to make it a top 10 has always been difficult, but there's no right or wrong list when it comes to opinions. The 10 worst final albums, I have almost got everything ready to go, but I have to listen to a few albums in order to think to myself if these are like the definitive picks. Oh shit! Sorry, clicked away from the chat on my screen. Um, Nathaniel Deaton. Wow, I had no idea Stereolab was releasing new material. I've always loved them and think that Motoric beat that they often use is off the charts. I appreciate the adventurousness of Stereolab's music. I have more than a few of their excellent released digipack versions of their albums. I quite liked a lot of the sounds of their instrumentation, but when I really was getting into it, I was falling in love. The experience sounds of their originality is so inspired by other genres, like with electronic and krautrock, and their vocal melodies sound quite poppy and the harmonies are awesome. Stereolab's music is full of texture and character, and that's one of the best things about experimental bands, that you would either get into what's going on until there would be moments where you would think, that is so surprising and I did not expect to hear this or that. But Stereolab's incredible consistency of their albums, like the classic ones where their music was at their peak, is mesmerizing. Dots and Loops is a classic, but also their other album that I was really loving a lot, the previous album, which is Emperor Tomato Ketchup, and I think also Stereolab's music is just a wide variety. I would like to see bands like Stereolab to witness what they're like live, because I have been an open-minded person to give bands a chance to show what they can bring to an audience. I've seen most of the time the list of different metal bands, some alternative and indie stuff, some of the rock, but with Stereolab, and even other ones like with The Prodigy and Kraftwerk and the Chemical Brothers, I would like to see those types of bands live too. Kraftwerk, annoyingly, rarely play in the UK. They used to play in the UK, but they're doing an endless tour at the moment with concerts in different countries, and if Kraftwerk are going to be playing somewhere in the UK, further away from where I live, like London or Cardiff, whatever, I would just be desperate to go see Kraftwerk, as they are my favourite German band, alongside the others like Rammstein, Can, Tangerine Dream, Faust, and even though Kraftwerk's lineup is mostly the touring band and Ralf Hutter being the last original member left, that does not bother me though, because Ralf Hutter and the late great Florian Schneider have been Kraftwerk. But it is a pleasure for me to meet Wolfgang Flür a few times when he was in his own solo direction. Yes, Jake, slow dive. I love slow dive, and I would love to come back to um, listen to their music again. And besides which, I did buy some more um, slow dive for the collection. Um, their energetic presences on stage and the amazing musicality they brought in their live settings is something to behold. Um, I would have loved to see My Bloody Valentine because they are another one of my all-time favorite bands, and Loveless is personally, for me, one of the top albums of the 90s. If not, it's my favorite album of the 90s. Nathan Neil Deaton, well, it looks like they're coming to the UK. Looks like they'll be at Milton Keynes. I think it's um, too late for me to have a chance to purchase tickets. Um, but if they will be coming to the UK again, I would love to have. Oh, lagging again, I see. Fucking YouTube. Sorry about that. What I was going to say is, if Kraftwerk are going to come back to the UK again, I would love to have my chance. Okay, it is 9:45 in the evening right now, so I'm going to wrap this up at around 10 o'clock. Not just because of the lagging, but it's getting late at night time. But for what it's worth, with what's been happening in the stream, it looked like YouTube had behaved themselves for most of the stream, despite the lags, as I keep saying that. At least it didn't affect me too much for me to say to myself, I can't stream like this. But at least you guys are here, and that's what matters the most. So thank you to Guitar Storms, Luca, Jake again, Psycho, and Nathaniel Deaton, and also Damaged Incorporated Network. Yeah, for taking some of the time to enjoy this stream. I think you might be affected more than us. I didn't notice you lagging really. That is weird, because it was lagging at my end quite a lot. But that is unexpected. So I think it's just, one of those moments where, a stream just has to continue having the show to be going on. Not that I would have any of my streams to be, perfect, because perfectionism is not really that easy for, a lot of things. But with a stream that's always been like raw and uncut and just so free and open, whatever happens on a stream. I think for the next stream, besides the update and hangout part, I would like to do the jams of the guitar. I was gonna do some tonight, but I have been busy with some recording and the work for Hardgraft. Jake, are there any film-based scores you're on the hunt for to acquire in your collection? There has been a lot. Um, I would love to have Silence of the Lambs on vinyl, and Jaws, The Godfather. Uh, can't really think of a lot. Um, I just have a few. Taxi Driver, um, Brimstone and Treacle. I need to get the Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack, because when I first listened to the soundtrack, the one from the 70s, by the way, I fell in love with it. The Blues Brothers soundtrack, I do love the Blues Brothers as a film. Yeah, Time Warp is such a great song. You got me thinking about some amazing soundtracks. I just find soundtracks for some of the time to be underrated. Like um, I love the Oliver soundtrack from the 60s. That hits home for me for nostalgia. Um, let's see. Nathan Neil Deaton. Have to go now, but it was great hearing from you, man. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you very much, Deaton. You're always welcome to join in the club. The club of being around with amazingly supportive, kind, generous, and engaged people for these random times of streaming, to be in the moment and always have a good time when the change of things happen, and we always have to think to ourselves to look after each other and to be here for one another, and as importantly as well to go through the self-care and to know that you have a purpose in life. These streams have always been a big boost of positivity, as well as with making videos. And I could not take it for granted that you guys have been here, whether you're a new subscriber or old or a long time subscriber. It always has been a wonderful ride. And with that, I think I am now going to leave it here, because it's close to 10 o'clock anyways. Thank you guys very much for participating to these types of streams. Upcoming videos will be up on the channel at any random moments, whenever it's an album review that I want to do, or something different like a vlog. And yes, I will say this for the very final time, I am going to do some videos on guitar content. So I am really looking forward to be making those types of videos, as I've been a full-time musician for years by this point, and I just thought, why not decide to display my actual proper work that's not just as important, if not even more important, but to know what I have been creating through my productivity. Thank you guys, and I will keep you all posted for some more videos and the next live stream for the month of June, and You take care of yourselves. Look after one another. Much love to you all. Peace out, guys.